Welcome everybody to the Berner MMA show. I am your host, the Pig, Brandon the Pig Plotnick. I'm here joined with the BernDawg himself. BernDawg, it feels like it's been a while. Feels like it's been a while since 264. We haven't done a pod. The Connor card, but we're back. UFC 265, Derek Lewis versus Cyril Gane. Good to see you, bud.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I feel like we haven't had a lot to really talk about. So, I mean, there were some fun fight nights, but that Strickland and Hall fight was pretty interesting. I'm not going to lie. He ended up breaking Hall's orbital, and Hall might be out until January.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting fight because they're both strikers, but Strickland just completely outclassed him in every way. You know, the guy's so good. And then, you know, in less than a week already is agreeing to a fight.
Love it.
He's coming back. The male model himself, Luke Rockhold,
the male model.
Baby. The male model himself. Yeah, I was kind of doing a little research when I found out about it. Luke hasn't won a fight since 2017, and he's going to get a really good – he's not going to be a main event. I don't think it's even going to be a main or co-main event because the card's so stacked. What is it, UFC 268 or 67 that they said?
They added it to 268, baby. That'll probably be the co-main because you got you have Colby Usman, and then you have –
and then Chandler.
Yeah, Chandler Gaethje. And then we got Rockhold, and I'm sure there's more to come. I'm sure there's more we haven't even looked at.
Is that November?
I believe so.
Because that might be where they're rescheduling Nunes Pena for.
I don't think they'll probably use that to headline like 267 or something like that, but I don't know. That's November 6th.
Either way, those are some three awesome fights to look forward to, but we're not here to talk about the future. We're here to talk about the now. We got UFC 265 in the house, but before we talk about the future, before we talk about the now, let's talk quickly about what we talked about the last time we were together. UFC 264. It was Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor. We had a handshake bet. We took it to the barn. You got me on Poirier over McGregor. Of course, I'm going to bet with my heart like I always do with the notorious one. You know how it is. But, hey, doctor stoppage. You know, I'm not going to bite myself in the ass here. He broke his ankle in half. What more can I do? His whole shin. He's got a metal rod in his leg now. So what more can I say? But I was also wrong, and I think we were both wrong about Stephen Thompson. Wonder Boy actually loses by decision. I thought if it was going to go to decision that Thompson was going to easily walk away with that one. But Gilbert looked phenomenal.
It really just showed that he can grow as a fighter every fight. You know, he came out, he stuck to his guns, heavy wrestling-based approach, and, you know, he did what he needed to do to beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. If he stood up with him and just tried to strike, you know, he was going to lose. So, you know, not a lot of people have been able to follow that tactic, and that just props to Gilbert Burns. It shows how good he is. I'd love to see another fight with Kamaru. It looks like whoever wins in one of these fights tonight might actually get a title contender shot, or well, not tonight, this weekend. UFC 265 might get a title contender shot versus either Leon Edwards or versus Gilbert Burns to see who's ready to take Kamaru back. And that's in the Michael Chiesa, Vicente Luque, appropriately ranked 5 and 6 in the welterweight division, which is just, I mean, there's so many killers in the welterweight division. It's crazy.
It really is. And really and speaking of killers in a single division, how about the bantamweight division where the real star of the show was Chris Matinho getting fight of the night honors, going toe-to-toe with Sean O'Malley. I mean, that was very close if you had the over or the under. And this was a tricky one because the over-under was really tricky, but he got it with about 2 minutes to spare in the third round, and he got the under 2.5, Sean O'Malley. I had the under, so I was quite happy. But Chris Matinho, talk about a chin of steel, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the memes, dude. The memes were the best part of that fight. I mean, everywhere you just saw Chris Matinho memes, and he'll be a legend forever because of that fight. You will always remember the green-haired zombie that walked down Sean O'Malley. Like he's continue fighting, and he's got talent. So I'm excited to see him get matched up against someone his talent level. He'll probably rock their socks. You know what I mean?
I mean, for a guy walking in on a week's notice, that was a phenomenal outing by him. And yeah, what a great marketing tactic, whether it was on purpose or not, to use the green hair as a way to make people remember you, right? Now he's got to keep the green hair, though.
Now he has to keep the green hair. I don't think
who's going to remember him if he doesn't.
You know what? I didn't even think about that point, but he's got to stick to the green hair. If he doesn't have the green hair, there's his gimmick. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, who would know who Sean O'Malley was if he didn't have tri-colored hair? You know?
Yeah, exactly. And he's kind of sticking with that. You know what I mean? That's his shtick. He's like the 6ix9ine of fights without, the terrible music.
I'm just loving. I'm loving the bantamweight, shit talking going on right now, where they're all talking shit to O'Malley, like get into the top 10, maybe the top 15, and then come talk to me, because this guy is on cloud 9, considers himself 14-0 because he doesn't count that Marlon Chito Vera loss. But I mean, the guy's a killer. I mean, I know it was against Chris Matinho in his first UFC fight, his debut, but I mean, the guy's rolling. He's going to get himself a good fight. He's a big name. He's a draw. Anybody would be honored to fight him. That's why people are calling him out. Now, what I really wanted to talk about, and the last thing we'll talk about on the UFC 264 card, what really stole the show, obviously Matinho in the bantamweight stole the show, but heavyweight, the shoeies, baby. Straight out of New Zealand, Tai Tuivasa.
Ty's back. He's back, baby. That's great.
Over my boy Greg Hardy.
You gotta love it for Ty. And that win cemented him another couple more years in the UFC.
100%. Sure. And I mean, not only that, but just way to get your brand up. Do the shoey. Not only that, but do 7 shoeys. Do a shoey where someone pours a whole bottle of hot sauce into your beer and chug it. Make a face and go, "What the hell was that? Was that hot sauce?" And then laugh about it. What a legend.
Dude, those are the things you need in the UFC. Those are the WWE style things that you need in the UFC that keep us coming back for more. And unfortunately, I personally didn't like it. Not a lot of people liked it. But what Conor McGregor did in the ring while having a broken leg is the type of stuff that keeps MMA fans coming back for Conor McGregor. And I've been hating on Conor McGregor ever since he lost because of it. But I was listening to Joe Rogan, and his perspective kind of made it seem like, hey, most people are so shocked after they break a leg that their hands are in their face, like Anderson Silva and Weidman when they break their legs. Like, he breaks his leg and he told Joe when Joe did not want to give him the interview, he yelled at Joe and said, "Come here.
Yeah.
Let's do a podcast." And sit down next. And that is the type of stuff that keeps us coming back for more and keeps us Conor McGregor fans.
I know the Flacky guy was calling out, his family, his wife, things like that. But, dude, that's what Conor is, and that's how he got to the pedestal that he's on right now. I mean, he's got to talk like that, and he's only made it worse. He started talking about Khabib's dad in tweets, deleted him. Yeah. But it is what it is. That's what Conor is. That's his brand. But we'll move on. It is time. We'll talk about UFC 265. The only thing I wanted to talk about, talking about guys that get shocked when they break their legs and go down, and was I saw someone making fun. I think it was Cody Garbrandt in his comments, because he's moving back down, I believe, from bantamweight. He's going down to what, flyweight?
Yeah, flyweight.
So he's going down, and he was talking, and someone said something to him about O'Malley, and he's making fun of him. He's like, and this reminded me, O'Malley, when he broke his leg, had to get stretchered off and put in a wheelchair. And like, those are the things that you remember sometimes, instead of the guy like Conor
McGregor.
Like, come podcast with me and fuck you.
Podcast with me.
And ever since then, and he's been in such good spirits, and I appreciate that. The sport needs that. But the bigger conversation, and we'll talk briefly about this, and I know I want to talk more about UFC 265, but the luxury is the early prelims, and the prelims are pretty weak, so the main card's really all there's to talk about, especially because Amanda Nunes was the co-main event. She got COVID, she dropped out. But the big talk around the MMA world right now is the lack of pay for fighters, and they have the least amount of generated, I guess, shared revenue that they get to the fighters versus what the company gets. I think they're at 20, maybe 16%, I think, and then Yeah,
26,
26, and football and some other sports are at 51, 52%. So that's the big conversation right now in the MMA world.
Yeah, the piece of the pie that they're getting, absolutely. And like it was like that video of Cheyenne Bias when she gets when she finds out she gets 50K in her bonus. She drops to her knees in tears, and then you find out in the post-fight interview that she was already her to show $10,000 that she got paid. She was already in debt just to make it to the fight, to pay for her expenses through fight camp while she wasn't working. And now that 50K is going to change her life. So that the raw emotion that came out of that woman was just said it all about fighter pay. That's all you needed to know.
Right. And I think that the thing that people didn't notice, or the message didn't come across totally, was the fact that the guy that hugged her when she found out about the $50,000 was her husband, who's also a UFC fighter. It came up at Dana White's Contender Series. He hasn't been great. I think he's lost his first 2 fights, maybe his first fight. I'm not fully recalling. In the UFC, but he's another scrapper who made his way into the UFC Contender Series, got his way to a UFC contract, and that was awesome for them to be able to share it together. So I thought that was a really cool moment.
Yeah, she took his last name. So I remember seeing Bias and being like, wait, is she related? And ended up she's married to the other Bias.
Correct. All right, well, let's move on to UFC 265. Let's get into some bets. This is what the show's all about. Again, I'll mention it on every single podcast that we do. If you want to talk more about the landscape of the UFC, you want to talk about what's going on in each division, go listen to mainstream media. We're here to talk about bets and bets only. I mean, we'll talk about a little bit of things here and there, but that's just because we're big UFC fans. But this is a betting podcast. So let's move on to UFC 265. Early prelims. I don't think there's much to talk about here. It's the one thing to talk about is that the fight is in Houston. The main event is Derek Lewis. He's from Houston. He's going back to his hometown. He's already won in a main event in Houston. Got a knockout. The crowd was all behind him. I might be wrong, but I believe that was
the balls is hot.
That is the balls is hot. Exactly. That's what I was going to say. That's the balls is hot. Thank you.
I stole your thunder there.
No, I wasn't 100% sure. I was watching videos and I couldn't fully remember, but I had a feeling. So we'll kind of skip the early prelims. I mean, they start at 6 o'clock. I don't think everyone's going to tune into that. This is not the greatest main card just because of the Nunes loss, but still some awesome fights. And we'll start with the prelims, and let's jump into the first bet that we're going to be jumping on. I think that the first women's fight on the prelims is Carolina, I can't even pronounce her last name, versus Jessica Penne. Nothing there. Alonzo Menafield, a guy that I always talk shit about, versus 40-year-old Ed Herman, who's coming off of a 3-fight win streak. Alonzo Menafield is a big favorite at about -240. What do you like here, BernDawg?
I see some value here. I haven't bet it, but enough to talk about it. If there's a fight on the early prelims, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about it. If there's value to be had, if there's a bet to be made, if there's nothing there, we don't see any area to make profit because this is a betting show. We're not going to talk about it, plain and simple. Personally, I'm, this isn't a flag plant or anything on my part, but I see some value here. I see that Alonzo Menafield is -115 to -135, depending on what books you're using, to win by KO TKO. And if you look at his record and you look at what he can do, all of his KO TKO wins are usually in the first round. So, if he wins, it's a KO TKO. All of his fights in the UFC, all of his wins have been first round KO TKOs. So, if he's this big of a favorite and we think he's going to win, and history shows us that 100% of the time when he does win, it's by KO or TKO in the first round, that tells me that, you're betting a pretty good percentage there. If you're betting a pick'em -110, -115, that means you think that bet is going to hit about 50% of the time. So it shows us if he wins 100% of the time, it's KO TKO, and 100% of the time it's in the first round when he's won in the UFC. Then that shows us that there's a trend there, and we're not always going to bet trends, but in a situation like this where we have a heavy favorite at -240, that's too heavy of a favorite for most people to take. You and I usually aren't going to take that much of juice. on a single fighter. So what we're going to do here is, if you really think that he's going to take the first round KO, then you're going to take plus 225 Menfield to win by first round KO, TKO. If you don't want the risk of having the first round, you can take him to win just by KO, TKO, anywhere from minus 115 to minus 135, depending on what book you're at. So I think there's value there. I'm going to be on one of two lines. Knowing me, knowing the BernDawg, I'll probably take the plus 225 line, but always analyze your risk. And if you don't want to worry about him finishing him in the first round, then boom, you take KO, TKO. It's a pick 'em.
So let me ask you this. So obviously, win by TKO or KO is going to be minus 135. That's what they're showing on, the main books, DraftKings Sportsbook, and some of the books that I'm looking at. And if you take him first round KO, you get that plus 220 juice, which is great. How about that 2-minute and 30-second buffer, and you take the under of 1.5 at minus 112?
You took the words out of my mouth, because we always have to say it. We say it every time. If you get a better line by combining something with the under or over, make sure that you take it. So serving it up on the platter for me there, Pig, because I can get around plus 250 odds by parlaying him in the under, something around there. So again, it depends on what book you're using, but always look at every possibility. So we have 3 possibilities on one bet, which is an early KO by Menfield is what we're looking at. So we have minus 135 to win just by KO, TKO. We have first round plus 225 for first round KO. And if your book allows it and you're parlaying the under and him, you might be able to get an upwards of, plus 250, depending on what the lines are. I didn't run the numbers on it. Usually you're going to get the extra juice when you parlay it. It's like a little hack. I don't know why books adjust lines the way they do sometimes, but thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, so I agree with the parlay piece, but I was more so also referring to, what about giving yourself that 2-minute, 30-second buffer, not just taking the parlay, but just taking the flat under 1.5. Anything's possible at that point.
That's a great one. That's a great one. We've seen Menfield KO'd by Ovince St. Preux. We've seen him, eat punches. He doesn't have a particularly strong chin. So what do we have on the under there, Big?
It is minus 112.
Minus 120? Minus 112?
Minus 112, yeah, in that range.
Exactly. So, hey, you want to go for a straight pick 'em? Then you take if you see, this is where you get the differing in risk. So if you know Menfield's going to win, then by KO, TKO gives you that extra half round in the second round or the rest of the fight for him to score that. So I definitely like the bringing in the diversity, but the specific bet we're talking about here is knowing that Menfield's going to win, and whether you want to deal with a time constraint, knowing he's going to win by KO, TKO, and whether you want to deal with a time constraint or you just want him to win by KO, TKO. Because there's no saying he can't get a knockout 3 minutes into that first round. So it's like, if you don't want to deal with the risk of what fighter's going to win, then boom, you take your under. If you don't want to deal with what fighter's going to win and you know Menfield's going to finish it, then you take TKO, KO to not have to deal with a time constriction. If you really want to take the juice and you follow the trend of first round KO, then you take plus 225 in that first round KO. So great way to expand our bet here, Pig. That's a super valid point, and sometimes I'll miss things by being locked into a certain style of betting, and this is why you talk over your bets with other people, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the type of views that you'll get.
Absolutely. So when it comes down to betting this, I actually think I'm going to lean towards middling and get that minus 112 on the under of 1.5. Ed Herman he's on a 3-fight win streak, which is great, but he's 40 years old. Before that, he hasn't beaten anybody of note, and he's just aging. I was listening to some of his interviews. He doesn't sound overly confident. He thinks that Menfield is out of his league in a bad way. Like, He's not in his league. And I just think that that's not the mentality you want versus a guy that's twice your size and half your age. So I like the under here, but I just think that that extra 2.5 minutes could, loom large.
Yeah. I mean, he showed that when he does get finished, it is under 1.5 rounds by Nikita Krylov and Derek Brunson. Early TKO KOs there. But hey, with Menafield, you never know what guy's going to show up on the mat. Almost, you know what I mean? He showed he's got the athletic talent, but we don't know if the mental game is all there. Personally, that's why I just take the underdog plus 225, root for that first round KO, give yourself a little bit of entertainment, and don't eat too much juice while you're at it.
I appreciate it. All right. Well, I'm glad that we talked through it. There's 3 opportunities out there for everybody to make a confident bet. Let's move on to the final fight of the prelims. We've got Bobby Green versus Rafael Fiziev. Now, this is a fight that I'm pretty well versed in. I actually know a lot about Bobby Green, watched a lot of his fights, and Fiziev is the heavy favorite here. Now, there's a reason why. He's short, he's stocky, but he's going to be fighting a guy with insane length in Bobby Green. Now, Bobby Green's last fight, he fought Thiago Moises, and he was actually winning in significant strikes, but he lost because of a bunch of takedowns. That is going to be the Brazilian jiu-jitsu that you're going to face when you're facing Thiago Moises. Now, he's actually pretty good at taking people down and great at ground and pounding. His fight before that with Patrick, that's how he, got to a nice victory there, was through some takedowns of ground and pounding, which was impressive. But Rafael Fiziev, this guy is truly a phenomenon. I think he's going to be, one of the top 10 contenders in the division. He's short, he's stocky. He has, I mean, if you watch this guy, his kick punch combos is, I guess you could call him a kickboxer, but I think he's got a little bit of everything, Muay Thai in his game, but his combos are crazy. He's got so much power with his kicks. He throws everything he has into them, and they're all body shots. He's not going for your legs. He's going to go straight at your body, and then when you go to cover your body with your hands, he's going to throw a fucking combo hook right at your face. His last 2 wins were versus similar style opponents as Bobby Green, much longer, much bigger, but rocked them with the body kicks, and he keeps his distance somehow, even as a short guy. Not only that, but when you got a guy like Bobby Green who has the length and the distance on you, this guy's defense reflexes are out of control, honestly. Even when someone comes at his head, he's always blocking, ready for the body shot right after, and then comes right back at you with a kick, with a combo. He's always aware, and his last 2 fights by KO because he is just so strong with his counters. I think Fiziev here, obviously, he's a huge favorite. He's looking at about minus, let's see, I just want to see what the current line is. He is minus 270.
Last time.
Yeah, minus 270. Bobby Green's plus 230, over under 2.5. The over is juiced to 265. I would lean under here, actually, as an underdog bet at plus 145. I think Bobby Green may try to grapple with him, but I think that Fiziev is so good with keeping distance, even as a short guy and stocky guy. And he's got a chance to really put this guy away. And if Bobby Green does try to grapple with him, I think that he's got an opportunity to land some closer counter punches, because that's only going to help Fiziev in getting closer to him. And I don't think Bobby Green's takedown offense is good enough. My lean is under 2.5. Also lean would be Fiziev by knockout.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing the underjuice there because Bobby Green's out of his last 10, 9 of them have gone over. Dude's got a hell of a chin. He can absorb punches very well. The last person that actually knocked him out was Dustin Poirier back at UFC 199 in 2016. So it doesn't seem that he's fought he hasn't fought, some very, very heavy-handed dudes since. A bunch of strikers there, but no one punch knockout guys. Alan Patrick, Lando Venata twice, Clay Guida, Drakkar Close, good fighters, but not one punch knockout guys. So it's really do you think that his chin can hold up? And I don't really know. I'm not going to go over under with this. I capped it solely because my goal is how do you bet Fiziev? How do you get his odds down? Because I really think he's going to run through Bobby Green. I don't think Bobby Green has enough to, 1, stay off the mat, but 2, to keep Fiziev at distance and effectively strike. So really here, my lean is Fiziev, put him in a parlay, try and find a way, maybe take him by decision to get a lesser line. That's where I would be leaning, is by decision or parlayed with the over. Probably the by decision gets a better line because the over's juice as well. But that's where my head's at for this specific fight.
So I'm actually going to go ahead and take a bet here. I didn't bet the Menfield fight. I just had a lean there, whether it be under or taking the first round, TKO. I'm going to go with Fiziev to win by KO or TKO. I just think that he's too good. Plus 175, I find nice value there. He's the better fighter, obviously, at minus 270. And to get him to win by KO or TKO when I know he has the power to do so at plus 175, I think that's a great value bet. So that's going to be my, first bet of the night. I think that there's a lot of bets that you can do with this, as there is with every single fight. But this is a guy from Kyrgyzstan. He is the future of the country. He wears the hat on his sleeve, literally. He has he's got that like Khabib type hat. He wears like a little squirrel on his head.
Yes, he does.
So I really love him. He's from Kazakhstan, but fights out of Kyrgyzstan. And those are two different countries for everybody that isn't fully aware. But I really love Fiziev here. I watched all the tape on Green and then watched all the tape on Fiziev, and I think Green's completely outmatched here.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably end up tailing you on that. I'm trying to look up what the by decision line is.
Just had it up. Let me see. To by decision would be 400 plus 400. Oh no, sorry.
Plus 125, plus 130. Yeah, plus 120 to plus 140 is kind of the range. I'm looking at the Fight Odds website that gives you a bunch of different books: Bet Online, Bovada, MyBookie, DraftKings, FanDuel, all those. So you could find different ways to bet it, but definitely we're leaning Fiziev here to win.
If I'm going to make a bold prediction here, I think he's going to end him with a body shot. That's my bold call. It's not going to be something I'm going to hang my head on, but I'm telling you, this guy throws everything into it that he has, and he's got a short, stocky body, and he's going to throw some hammers at his body. And Green likes to clinch, so he's going to try to get close to him, and I think that's only going to help to save Fiziev. So let's move on.
That's a bold strategy, Cotton. I hope it works out for him.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's exactly – well, I'm just saying that that's
I
think it could end, but I'm going to ride –
I just wanted to use the dodgeball line.
Cool. Well, let's move on to what I actually think is no joke. We're going to move on to the main card of the evening. My favorite fight of the night, and sounds crazy, is Casey Kenny in a bantamweight bout versus Song Yadong. So we've got this as almost a pick 'em. Casey Kenny's about minus 120, and Song Yadong almost at even money, maybe minus 105 or so. Over under is 2.5. Juice to the over. Before I get into what I love about this, I want to hear your thoughts, and then I'll give you some of my opinion on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is going to be the barn burner of the night, in my opinion. It's got fight of the night written all over it. If Aldo Munoz doesn't, we'll see what happens there. Munoz is the type of fighter to wade into a brawl with Aldo. So we'll see, but this is going to be a similar type of fight. Both fighters want to come out. They want to swing. Song Yadong is just, an animal. He's only 23. He's had multiple fights in the UFC. He's got the experience. And Casey Kenny is coming off his first step up in competition against Dominic Cruz, where that was a close fight. We had bet Cruz that night, and we were worried at first that Casey Kenny had him.
A couple takedowns.
You got some audio issues. We'll kind of filibuster here. But, yeah, I mean, Casey Kenny in that fight was absolutely crazy. But he was the aggressor in that fight. The problem is he did not throw enough volume in that fight, and that's how Dominic Cruz came out victorious. He threw the volume. He threw more kicks. He attacked that leg, and that's what really gave him the overall decision there. But Casey Kenny, he's just so quick, man. Just so quick, and just the way that he fights. And you know that the way Dominic Cruz fights is really tight on his feet, loves to move around, bounce around. But the way Kenny fights, he's so quick with the strikes. He doesn't have that much power, needless to say, but the one thing that Kenny does have an issue with is the trouble defending the kick. He didn't check enough of the kicks from Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz was attacking that leg, and that's really what gave him the overall decision. He also took him down, and that was a bit of an issue, but it was brief. He got up pretty quickly, Kenny. I just think that the issue for Kenny, he was the aggressor the whole fight. He kept bringing the fight to Dominic Cruz, but Cruz was just landing every kick. He landed every kick. Kenny wasn't checking enough of them. He threw more punches, Kenny did, but he didn't land enough of the significant strikes. And that's the problem that he may face against Yadong. But I think that this is going to be a completely different matchup for Yadong than it was against Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, I got a perfect stat to build off of that. Casey Kenny absorbs 1.1 significant strikes, per strike thrown at him. And Song Yadong is 0.59. So Yadong absorbs half of the strikes that Casey Kenny absorbs. And something that I've noticed from his last few fights is he keeps his head on a line, right? So when he's throwing, he's not slipping or parrying or, the old Canelo loop-de-loop. He keeps his head right on line. And I think he's going to walk right into Yadong's counter left hook. Step back, counter left hook. I think he's going to run into some issues where in most fights he's able to walk down fighters with his pace. With shout out to I think it's SB Nation or MMA Fighting. One of the writers on there used a term called reactive wrestling. Casey Kenny tries to rush you. He will slip a punch and use reactive wrestling to grab you, throw you down, continue to grab and pound. Reactive grappling, where you make a reaction off of another fighter's action, and you use that to slip in and grab hold of somebody, shoot for the double leg, grab an ankle. So what I've seen is that one, Casey Kenny keeps his head on the line, and two, he uses reactive wrestling, which if a fighter is stepping back with a counter, if you react to their feint, they're gonna snipe you, they're gonna clip you. Although I don't. Kid's got a hell of a chin. He had a lot of shots by Dominic Cruz. This is going to be, a barn burner for sure.
Yeah. So one thought on Song Yadong, and I get what you're saying. He's got the power. There's no doubt about it. The thing is that he needs to close space in order to land those punches. And I just think that Kenny's a little too quick for him. Not only that, Yadong has really bad takedowns. I think that he lost his last fight. And then not only that, but his win over Marlon Chito Vera, that was a highly controversial fight. A lot of people thought that he should have lost that fight, that the judges scored that incorrectly. He gets taken down a lot because he tries to, get so close to you because he just doesn't have enough movement. And I think Kenny is going to be a little bit too quick for him. All that to be said, just to dive right into my bet, since this is a betting podcast, I'm not going to flag plant quite yet, but I'm going to take a cash grab here. I'm taking Casey Kenny at -122. That's one of my favorite bets of the night, actually.
Yeah, man. I mean, I definitely think that I came into my handicap thinking that I was going to bet Casey Kenny. And when I looked at the analytics, when I looked at significant strikes absorbed, takedowns landed versus takedown defense, everything showed me that Yadong has an edge in areas that Casey Kenny uses to win fights, right? So Casey Kenny uses pace, that reactive wrestling that we were talking about, and quickness to put a pace on fighters, take them down, or pin them against the cage and get his strikes in. You think he's going to be quick? I think that he's going to run into issues using the same techniques that he usually uses to win. So I'm personally just playing devil's advocate to give people the other side of the story. I think that Casey Kenny at -122 is a great bet. You're not betting against value. You're betting face value. And you're betting the more experienced fighter against a young fighter like Sang Yadong, who's 23. And with those young fighters, they either take a big leap, or when they take a leap of experience, they run into issues, which Yadong ran into with Kyler Phillips in his last fight. But the issue with Kyler Phillips is he's a much more explosive fighter. He is a much more explosive wrestler. It's a different type of fighting. Casey fights quick, yes, but grinds on you. He steps forward and he grinds on you. And I think Yadong has the characteristics to counter that. For fun, why don't we take this to the barn?
All right. That bottle is still up in the air. I'm still waiting. I was waiting for my whiskey bottle, but you couldn't give it to me. So you got it back with Dustin. We'll do another whiskey bottle. That's fine. I really love Casey Kenny here. So we'll take a nice whiskey bottle on this one, eh?
All right. Sounds good to me.
And
take it to the barn, baby.
And for the hell of it, make it some proper whiskey, eh?
Proper number 12. All righty, buddy. This sounds like fun.
All right, man. I like it. Well, let's move on to the only women's fight on the main card. We have a strawweight bout with Tecia Torres, number 10 ranked in the strawweight, versus number 12 ranked Angela Hill. This has all the makings of straight striking. We have two very experienced fighters. Tecia Torres has fought all the top women in the division. She's gotten a fight with Jessica Andrade. She's gotten a fight with Zhang Weili. She has gotten a fight with Rose Namajunas, with Joanna Jędrzejczyk. There's one cohesive thing that happened in all those fights. She lost in all those fights, but I believe she fought Michelle Watterson, Karate Hottie, but Angela Hill also fought her as well. Both got victory. Either way, Angela Hill, they're both just significant strikers. I think Tecia Torres might have the game plan of potentially trying to take her down, but I think they're both to stick to their brand are strikers. I don't think this is going to go down to the ground much. I think Tecia Torres might game plan to go to the ground with Angela Hill because that's not the strong suit of her game. But I think this is just going to be a straight up fight. It's just going to be punching. And I don't think either of them have much power. We've seen Angela Hill in many fights before. She truly doesn't have knockout power whatsoever. And she's coming off a win off of Ashley Yoder. She got a decision win. Before that, lost to Michelle Watterson in a 5-round fight. Got beat by Claudia Gadelha in a decision. Lost by decision to Luke Bone. I don't even know who that is. She won by KO, TKO versus Carnelossi. But this is all before she was somewhat of a name. And this is only going back to 2019. Tecia Torres has been doing this since 2014. She is a seasoned veteran. I think that the line is telling you, obviously, that Tecia Torres is a small favorite at minus 135. Angela Hill is plus 115, which actually is a little bit surprising. I would have thought that I would have thought that Tecia Torres would be a bit higher of a favorite. I think Vegas has given her a little bit more than she can chew. Over under is hugely juiced on the over of 2.5 at minus 410 is what I'm seeing. Frankly, this is a fade fight. I'm not going to touch this.
Yeah, I'll tell you why Ticia's favored, and it's because
I know she's favored. I thought she'd be favored by more.
No, okay, gotcha. I mean, she's a grappler at heart, right? So she has fought the who's who. So is Angela Hill, and every fighter that wants to beat Angela Hill needs to grapple, keep her up against the cage, and land your strikes there outside of her range. Because she excels in lengthy kickboxing, Muay Thai style fights. Tecia Torres historically, will grind on women, will hold them up against the cage. She wants to get the takedown. She wants to get the takedown and fight you there. Now, the reason she keeps losing in these big high-profile fights is she wasn't able to hold karate against the cage and enforce her will. And, with Angela Hill, will she be able to do that? I don't really know. This is a fade for me as well. I just think that, if I had to bet it, gun to my head, I'm going to take Tecia Torres because she's going to try and, grapple instead of instead of strike with the better striker. You know, many fighters have shown this is the method to beat Angela Hill. There's a roadmap per se on how to beat Angela Hill with most fighters, and standing there and striking didn't work out for her against Hadi, and it's not going to work out for her against Angela Hill. So she's the bigger, more physical fighter, has better, you know, cage grappling, transitional grappling, and I think that's why she's slightly favored. And, you know, betting on her wouldn't be the end of the world, but neither of us are going to bet.
That's all I needed to hear. I think this is a full fade fight. I think it's going to be a good one, too. I think everyone should tune in. This is going to be a fun fight to watch, but not a fun fight to bet. Let's move on now to a welterweight bout. We have the number 5 ranked welterweight in Michael Chiesa versus the number 6 ranked Vicente Luque. This is one of the most interesting fights of the night, I believe, because it is such a great stylistic matchup. We have Michael Chiesa, who I'd consider maybe the best wrestler in the division, versus Vicente Luque, who is
the hot take.
Ooh.
The hot take over Colby Covington. All right. I'll allow it. I like it.
So I think Colby's the better all-around fighter. Best wrestler, debatable. I think Colby might be, and we'll see what he does with an opportunity, you know, towards the top of the division.
Chiesa's the better submission wrestler.
And
like his grappling chains to submissions, dude. I mean, he's a wizard on the ground, sub-wise.
But in his last 4 fights, he has not gotten a submission. And the 2 losses he had before that, he was submitted. But we'll get to that in a second. Versus Vicente Luque, who certainly is the opposite when it comes to stylistic matchup. This guy throws hands, great Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter, is a knockout artist, really has so much power. But he's got a chin on him. So I think that could, you know, fare well for him. The problem is this isn't going to be a matchup where it's going to matter for him, because it's all going to be about staying on your feet. So Michael Chiesa, coming off of 4 straight wins, just had a nice main event victory over Neil Magny. 5 rounds, got the decision, just sat on top of him the whole time. Before that, got RDA, did the same exact thing in a 3-round fight, sat on top of him, got a nice decision victory. Same with Diego Sanchez the year before in 2019. And then Carlos Condit, he actually submitted him in the 2nd round toward the end of the 2nd round, which was a nice one. But before that, it's very interesting. He lost to Anthony Showtime Pettis by submission in the 2nd round with about 52 seconds left in the 2nd round. Now, what was interesting about this one was watch the whole fight. Chiesa takes him down and he's dominating the whole fight. But Anthony Pettis, the Showtime that he is, he actually from his back gets him in a triangle arm lock and makes him submit. And so that's my concern. But then not only that, but the fight before that, go back to 2017, Chiesa fights Kevin Lee. He does the same thing. He's on top of him the whole time and then gets a crazy knee to the face. And then Kevin Lee just gets him in a great rear naked and got him right in. Chiesa gave him his back, and that was the problem, even though Chiesa was on top of him the whole round, but at one point gave him his back, and Kevin Lee chokes him out. So he has 2 sub losses, but in those 6 fights that I talked about, ground control, he dominated the whole way. I mean, the guy just can sit on top of you, and he knows what he's doing. That's why I call him one of the best wrestlers in the division. Whereas on the other side, we're going to talk about Vicente Luque, who really isn't the guy that's going to sit on the ground. He's a great Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighter, great knockout artist. He had a submission over Tyron Woodley in his last fight. That was in March. But if you watch the fight, Tyron comes roaring out of the cage and just comes straight at him, and they start throwing fists. And the fight only got, a few minutes in. It was a minute and a half in, basically. And Vicente stuns him. And Tyron is literally, I don't know if you remember this, he was wobbling. He ran into the cage because he couldn't control his legs. He just ran into it like, I'm not going to use a terminology that's not, socially acceptable, but he didn't look totally,
don't be a pussy. He was on Queer Street.
Yeah.
he was rocking and rolling, dancing out there and on fucking Pride Day, bro. I mean,
he was
rocked. His legs were going backwards, you know what I mean?
He looked like a Bobo clown at a fucking, local, whatever you call those, the carnivals. He couldn't keep his legs straight and got him to the ground, and Vicente Luque was just able to choke him out easily. Tyron was at the downfall of his career anyways. But then Vicente Luque fights Randy Brown. He fights Nico Price. And both of those fights were absolute scraps. And honestly, I thought that he was losing both those fights. But all it took was one punch to really solidify. It wasn't like they were knockout punches. First of all, the Nico Price was a doctor stoppage at the end of the third round because Nico Price's eye closed. The Randy Brown fight was just it was the craziest knee ever. They're completely tangled. I think Vicente had him on the cage, and Randy Brown lowers his head, and it was a very legal knee. It almost looked like it was illegal, but he kneed him right in the head, and Randy Brown just dropped. So at the end of the day, where I'm getting at here is stylistically, this matchup is very opposite. I don't know where this is going to go necessarily, besides to the ground. But I think Vicente, although he has a nice chin, I saw him he got taken down by Randy Brown. He got taken down by Nick Price, and he got originally taken down by Tyron Woodley on the cage. I don't know if he's going to be able to hold off Chiesa here.
Yeah, I mean, I got a cash crop for the boys.
Sorry, I went on a tangent. This is what happens when I do extra research for these pods.
I mean, that's what we need. Sometimes we need that. I mean, you served it up to a platter for me here because I have a cash crop on Michael Chiesa -110. Like you said, he's the best wrestler. Let's call it he's the best grappler in the welterweight division in terms of wrestling plus submission. Now, if you were going to say best submission artist, you'd have to go Damian Maia. You take Damian Maia out of it, then maybe Gilbert Burns is the most talented submission fighter. But in terms of true wrestling plus BJJ grappling and submissions, Michael Chiesa is the best in the division, and there's a reason he's ranked number 5. And although yes, as a casual watcher, you may think in his last 4 fights he got on top of them and laid on them. Well, in actuality, they were some of the most dominant grappling performances we've seen in a while. I mean, he put RDA, Neil Magny, Diego Sanchez, and Carlos Condit, 4 big names, specifically RDA, and Neil Magny in terms of guys that are hard to take down. He took them down and he just clowned around on the ground with them. He is amazing when it comes to transitional grappling and holding position and putting himself in an area to ground and pound or an area to get a submission. He wasn't able to get a submission in the last 3, but he dominated those fights. Whether you want to say he's hugging him on the ground or not, he was on there and he was dominated. But the real thing that I want to bring up here is the opponents that Vicente Luque has been, 1, taken down by, 2, has fought in the last 5 years. You brought up he was taken down by Randy Brown, Nico Price, even Woodley brought him down. Like, he has not faced a true wrestling first fighter since Bilal Muhammad in 2016. Let's go over who he's fought. Tyron Woodley, Randy Brown, Nico Price, Wonder Boy, Mike Perry, Derek Krantz, Barberena, Jalen Turner, the Spider. Many people would remember him. He's a very long and lengthy striker. Then Nico Price again, and Leon Edwards before that. So in his last 10 or so fights, he has only fought striking first fighters, guys that are not trying to take him down. So what do we really know? Because he KO'd Bilal Muhammad, who's the best wrestler that he's faced in his career. He KO'd him in the first round with 1 minute and 19 seconds into the fight. So we have not seen what it looks like for Vicente Luque, who by all means is much, much better on the feet than Chiesa. It's not even close. If Chiesa can't get Vicente Luque down, he's going to have a long night, and Vicente Luque is going to tee off on him and probably knock him out. But my lean here says Chiesa is a better grappler than Vicente Luque has ever faced in the cage, and that once he gets a hold of Vicente Luque, he's going to keep him on the mat. So my cash crop here is going to be that Chiesa for 2 units, cash crop it -110, And then I'm going to throw a BernDawg in there for half a unit and go Chiesa by submission for half a unit. Plus 400 as the BernDawg of the week. So we got a double bet there for you guys. I love this fight as a MMA purist. I'm not personally an MMA purist, but a purist means that you love to see all aspects of MMA and you're not fazed by somebody wrestling somebody, who's a lesser wrestler throughout the match. And that's interesting to watch for people like me and for plenty of people. But that's what we mean by MMA purists, is that BJJ match for 3 rounds, that's fine. I'd love to see it. Wrestling match for 3 rounds, love to see it. I love to see good grapplers go up against bad matchups, because technically Vicente Luque is a bad matchup for Michael Chiesa because he is so well versed at striking. He's got an unfazable shin, and he's a BJJ black belt, a high level black belt, who is very good at submissions and who's not afraid to jump to a submission when they got somebody hurt, aka the Tyron Woodley fight where he's hurt, he's wobbled, boom, he wobbles him, he jumps on to a submission choke to finish him in the first round. So, he's well versed in the submission game. We are just betting here that we think Chiesa is so good at offensive grappling, at wearing out a fighter, that we think he's going to get the win, and that he's going to get a submission. If you're looking for some juice too, him by decision is a good bet, or him plus the over. You're getting into the you're getting plus 240 if you parlay him in the over. By decision, you're getting plus money as well. So if you think he's gonna take him down and hang on him, take that by decision or parlay with the over. If you just believe he's gonna come out, trot out that BernDawg, just come out and just absolutely dominate and get a sub. That's what I'm adding the by submission, because I think that's a real possibility. So technically I got 2.5 units on this whole fight, but I'm putting the majority on Chiesa because I think that he's going to get the job done.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth. That's my flag plant of the night. I'm going Chiesa money line. I was already all over that. Everything I talked about kind of already alluded to that bet. I think Chiesa has the upper hand here when it comes to stylistic matchups. So I absolutely am all over Chiesa here. So I'm with you. That was our welterweight fight of the evening. Now time to get to our co-main event of the evening, a bantamweight bout. The number 5 ranked bantamweight Jose Aldo is back, and he's fighting the number 9 ranked Pedro Munoz, coming off a nice few victories. Jose Aldo, we've talked about him in recent past, saying he's not washed up. Don't give up on him yet. And we were right about that in his most recent fight. We were flag planting on Jose Aldo versus Marlon Chito Vera. We said don't give up on him. He had just fought in Peter Yan. He had just fought in Marlon Moraes in a fight that we thought he should have won. He had lost to Volkanovski. I mean, those are 3 of the top contenders in the division. Talk about the champion. Talk about 2
and
of the
he
champions.
beat Marlon. That was a bad decision to Marlon. He should have beaten Marlon.
Yeah, no, he definitely won that fight, but he lost to the champion in featherweight because he went down to featherweight versus Volkanovski, and then went back up and fought Peter Yan and lost that in the 5th round by TKO. I'm sorry, down. You know how I am. It's all good. Up, down, sideways, all around. All I care about is that Jose Aldo, people think he's washed up. He's 34 years old. He is not old quite yet. He just happens to have been fighting for quite a long time. Now we get to Pedro Munoz, 19-5. Very good stylistic matchup. I don't think this is a fight they're going to go to the ground very much, but we got 2 Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighters. So I'm very interested in this fight. Pedro Munoz is coming off a nice decision victory over Jimmy Rivera, and he had recently lost to Frankie Edgar. That Jimmy Rivera fight was a rematch after he lost a few years back. He lost to Aljamain Sterling, but he did beat Cody Garbrandt. This is an interesting one. Before I get to bets and what I did or what I didn't do, I'll just say I didn't do anything here. I wanted to talk this one through with you because this is a flat pick'em. This is -110 each. We don't know. Yep. I don't know exactly what we're going to do. I mean, this isn't a 5-round fight. So that's, one thing to factor in when it comes to an over-under here. We've got a nice 3-round fight. It's juiced to the over, 2.5 at -210. We got to pick them. It's starting. It looks like the line's starting to move towards Aldo, maybe sharp when it's coming in. But co-main event, I need to hear your thoughts before I even think about what I'm going to do next.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting at the same place. I mean, for me, it's Jose Aldo or pass altogether, which is hard to pass on a co-main event. It's going to have fireworks like this one, but it's going to be a really close fight. I would say that Aldo has a significant, at least length advantage. I don't know the exact reach numbers, but Munoz is a significantly shorter fighter, while Aldo's a couple inches taller. He's got longer arms. He strikes at a different range than Munoz does. Munoz wants to get in.
Or size-wise, doesn't he not almost emulate? He's not as jacked, but as Jimmy Rivera, no? Size-wise.
Size-wise, but Jimmy Rivera was he wanted to wrestle with you. Munoz wants to get in and brawl. Size-wise, I was more so meaning height, because Jimmy Rivera was as wide as he was tall. You know what I mean? Just absolute muscle hamster. Yeah, muscle hamster of a guy. But Munoz is a brawler. He wants to get in and he wants to infight with his opponent and force a brawl. And he believes his chin will hold up against the best of them. Jose Aldo, if Aldo does not fall into brawling with him and doesn't get mad by getting hit and then, start brawling with him, all analytics, all signs point towards Aldo being able to outbox and, point away a victory to Pedro Munoz. So it's really, how does Aldo approach this fight? Because if he brawls with Pedro Munoz, then Munoz has the advantage. But all signs for me would point towards an outboxing, pointing match, because Aldo knows that his chin isn't there anymore and doesn't want to get sucked into a brawl a la Cody Garbrandt. That's an example of what happens when you brawl with Pedro Munoz. You might rock him, but he'll rock you while he's rocked, and put you down. Mm-hmm. He's got that much explosive power. So, if his coaches and his game plan come together, we should see an outboxing match where Jose Aldo uses his leg kicks and his length to outstrike Pedro Munoz, and maybe he'll clip him on the chin and get a knockout. But I would Aldo or pass for me is my cap.
All right, I got a bet here out of left field. I did some digging. I was leaning towards Aldo, and I'm gonna bet Aldo, but it's not something that I'll talk heavily on here. I think it's more of a personal play for me, and we're allowed to have those. I do it all the time, as where I take plays that I believe in, just my guy, and it may not be the analytical play or the statistical play, but it's something that I like. So I'll bet Aldo. But what I really want to give is my first piggy parlay of the evening. So what we're gonna do here is we're going to take, everything you said was right up my alley. We're going to take the over of 2.5 of Munoz Aldo. It is -210. We're going to parlay that with the over of 2.5 -220 of the Casey Kenny Yadong fight. And guess what? That's going to give us? It's going to give us +105. I think that's a great parlay piece. I think both of those sound like great decision matches where we're not having to worry about a fourth or fifth round. We're just going to, honestly, we don't have to worry about 2.5 rounds in that case. But I think that this is going to be, these are striking fights where we're not going to necessarily have to worry, which, we love the wrestling. And this could, somebody could take someone down. That's always possible. And maybe it's brief, but I think that this is going to be, like you said, a maestro fight, as I like to call it, where it's all about, piecing up tactically. I think both of these fights are very similar in that sense. And because of that, and we're dealing with multiple Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighters. And then I think you said Yadong, he's got the power, but I think Casey Kenny has the movement and the chin. I like to over both of these fights and parlay them and get +105 here.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and tell you there. I just went ahead and put that in for a unit. I like that. only needs to get to three rounds. I don't see a knockout in either. If there is a knockout, it's an unexpected Munoz knockout, in my opinion, where he clips Aldo on historically a weak chin. He's been clipped before. He's shown that he can be clipped.
Sure.
But I'll go ahead and put my money where my mouth is and follow them.
All right. Well, hey, Kim. Hey, when you're telling the pig, good things happen. All right. So let's move on to our main event of the evening. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner. We're going with a heavyweight interim title bout. Derek Lewis, the number 2 ranked heavyweight in the world, facing the number 3 ranked Frenchman, Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane minus 350, Derek Lewis plus 270. Cyril Gane, a clear heavy favorite here for all the right reasons. He has got the complete game, but I won't break down his tactical style. I'll give that to you.
Yeah, I mean, Cyril Gane is what we on this podcast like to call the new era fighter. He can wrestle, he can grapple, he can strike. He can do it all. He's got good takedown defense. Not that we're going to have to worry about that with Derek Lewis, but he really makes use of his, 84-inch, 82-inch, 80 something, in the 80s reach per se. He really has it all. And, I think with a couple more fights, I do think that so long as Ngannou stays in the UFC, that we'll end up seeing a trilogy between Cyril Gane and Francis Ngannou. That's how good he is. Or that's how good his potential is. But he is still up and coming, Even though he's fighting for an interim title, there's still a lot to prove. There's still a lot of questions about him fighting fighters that are willing to sit in the pocket and take his punches. The Volkov fight was a really good signal that Gane can stick to a game plan and use his length and athletic advantage to outpoint another fighter. And, all signs point to that's what's going to happen in this fight. But goddamn, how long are they going to keep disrespecting Derek Lewis, man?
Yeah.
I mean, plus 310 for a heavyweight underdog. Like, we know, if you've listened to this show, we love us some heavyweight underdogs. And you're going to give me the biggest knockout puncher in the division. I would say he's a bigger knockout puncher than Francis Ngannou in terms of
that's
lights out.
He has the most knockouts in heavyweight history.
Yeah, so like if you're gonna give
UFC
me that
heavyweight history,
that guy for plus 310 in what should be a closely matched fight. Like,
hold on. I gotta take my pants off. My balls was hot.
My balls is hot. Oh, I love it. I love it. Let me get my basketball shorts off. Yeah, I mean, there's a clear and simple bet here. You bet the heavyweight underdog. I wish I knew that the Sandlot rant about the Bambino, the great Bambino, where it's the catcher just ranting about how good Babe Ruth was. That is Derek Lewis in the heavyweight division, man. The great Bambino. He is always in the fight. He's looking for the counter knockout punch. And he can even knock you out with 5 seconds left in the 3rd round, 5th round. You know what I mean? He's that type of guy. And at plus 310, I'm not gonna, shy away from it. I'm gonna lean in. I'm gonna put 2 units on Derek Lewis plus 310 because with one punch, Cyril Gane's lights can go out, and he's shown that he is actually strategic in setting up these type of knockouts. Hence the video that I sent you of him against Junior Dos Santos, where he fakes like he got hit by a body shot, leans over like he's hurt. As soon as his opponent rushes in, he comes in, cracks Junior Dos Santos. So he's shown that, and against Curtis Blades, he set up that uppercut. He was looking for that uppercut against Curtis Blades the whole entire fight. He got it in the 2nd round, and he put him away. So at plus 310 all day, take my money. Take my money and my pants because my balls are hot.
So let me just, give a little bit of background just for everybody at home. Cyril Gane is 9-0 in his MMA career, 6 fights in the UFC, 6-0 obviously, but 2 by submission, 3 by decision, 1 by DKO. Like you mentioned, he is the new era fighter. He could do it in all different ways. What we haven't seen though, is him do it in a big crowd. Now, what we're going to see this week is a main event in Houston where Derek Lewis
in the big octagon.
In a big octagon. He's not going to be fighting in the Apex. So he's fought his last 3 rounds at the Apex. So that's going to be very different for him. I agree. I love that call as well. Bigger octagon, a lot more room for Derek Lewis to kind of give him some space. But also, I just think that he's going to be walking into a new world. He's a new world fighter, a new era fighter, as you call it, but he's walking into a new world where Houston, Texas is Derek Lewis's house. That he is from Houston, Texas. He's going to have the entire crowd behind him. How is Cyril Gane going to respond to the crowd? That's one thing to think about. Secondly, I wanted to, take the reins on this. Derek Lewis's last fight got Curtis Blades, huge underdog in a main event. And Daddy said, we're taking Derek Lewis on the huge underdog knockout.
Yes, he did.
And I was like, this line doesn't make any sense. I'm just going to ride Derek Lewis. He's going to win. And boom, he waited for that uppercut knockout. I think that we're going to see a little bit of the same. It's possible that Cyril Gane uses those legs because he's got such long legs and they're so strong. And I think that he's going to use those to his advantage. We know that Derek Lewis doesn't have the greatest stamina of all time. He does gas a little bit. His balls are always very hot, obviously. He's got a lot going in his undercarriage right now. But all of that to say, Derek Lewis is a legend. He is the Black Beast. He has the most knockouts in the heavyweight division. He's a seasoned veteran. He has wins over Curtis Blade. He's got wins over Alexei Oleinik, over Alir Latifi, over
against
Ivanov,
Volkov, against Ngannou.
He went to a good barber with Daniel Cormier. Cormier got him by submission, but that ain't going to happen this week. He actually beat Francis Ngannou, the current heavyweight champion. And guess what? This is for, and we didn't talk much about this, but this is for the interim heavyweight championship, which is crazy enough to begin with because I don't think this fight should be going on to begin with. First of all, I think that Stipe should have gotten an opportunity before both of these guys. That goes without saying. He has defended his belt more than anybody has ever in the division. Secondly, Francis Ngannou fought his way to the top to get to that position. He had only not fought for 3 or 4 months, and to give an interim belt away just because he's waiting for a fight because Dana White won't pay him makes me fucking sick. So that also is another factor. I think Derek Lewis has a lot to fight for here. This is his one shot. He knows it. This is it. I think Cyril Gane has a long career ahead of him. Derek Lewis has been fighting in the UFC since 2014. Cyril Gane's going to have a long future. He's a lot younger. Derek Lewis is 36. Derek Lewis is from Houston. The crowd's going to be behind him. Give me Derek Lewis by KO at plus 450. Not just to win. The win is plus 310. If he's going to win, he's going to win by KO. It's a 5-round fight. This ain't going to a decision by Derek Lewis. He ain't winning by decision. May as well take him by KO, TKO. Plus 450 is the only bet to make in this fight.
Yeah, I mean, I took 1 unit so far on plus 310, just in case the line moved, because most of the by KO, TKO lines are not out, but it looks like I'm going to have to cancel that and put it all on plus 450. Just ride the Black Beast to the promised land.
Look, if he gets outpointed, we can live with that. We're betting on a plus 450 dog here. But I think that all the signs point to, if he's going to win, that's the only way he's going to win. He's going to catch him. Look, Black Beast, he's not
going to outpoint them.
And he's not made for 5 rounds anyways. I think that, honestly, Cyril Gane's only tactical effort here has to be take him down. That could be, I mean, try to point him.
Don't be surprised. Yeah, don't be surprised if you see Cyril Gane
trying to point him with jabs and kicks ain't going to be a recipe for success if you know that all it takes is one punch for the Black Beast to knock you out. You don't think he wants to give him that chance.
Yeah. And what's so crazy is just Derek Lewis will just stand up. He has no no
He doesn't-
technique. He just stands up. He's just like, you know what? I'm done sitting here. And he just stands up out of any position. Doesn't matter if his ass cheeks are planted and you got both of his legs pinned underneath you. He's just going to pull one leg out and stand up because he's that athletic. So,
Cyril Gane's going to go for shots, and I think that he's going to try to do the same thing he did to Curtis Blades. Wait for that uppercut, and if not, he's just going to
throw Curtis Blades was coming in on the takedown.
Guess what? He could gas
he caught
himself.
there. Yeah.
But let's just not forget that he knocked out Francis Ngannou, and it wasn't long ago. It was only 2 years ago. This is what Francis Ngannou was on his come up, and it was the one fight that gave him a setback.
No, that was the decision. That was the decision.
No, I'm talking about Derek Lewis beat Francis Ngannou in 20. Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. He won by decision. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
That was the infamous lowest total.
Yeah, the most boring fight of all time.
Fight. Yeah. But he still won.
Yeah, no, he got the victory, and that's because Francis Ngannou trusted that if this guy could knock me out, it's at the end of the day. And ever since then, what he's gone to do is knock out Volkov, knock out Ivanov, knock out Latifi, knock out Olenek, knock out Curtis Blades. I mean, the guy is just a knockout machine. He's got the most knockouts ever. So we talked about this before. At the end of the day, I think plus 450 to knock out Gane is the only bet you could take for Derek Lewis. If not, the only other bet for the bettors out there that want to take the other side, I think you take Cyril Gane by decision, and that's going to pay you out at plus 200. And honestly, it's not a bad bet.
It's definitely not a bad bet. I mean, hey, if you want to hedge your plus 450 knockout bet, you take Cyril Gane plus 200. Put a unit on that. Put 4 units. 2 units on the 2 units on the knockout bet, and you break even if you lose. And you win a shit ton of money if Derek Lewis knocks him out. But
that's a good.
I mean,
you're right.
In the Ivanov,
that's the bet right there.
Hedge.
Which basically, at the end of the day, though, the only problem with that is that you're basically giving yourself the same odds that you would take if you just took Lewis to win outright, but you're giving yourself a way out, a chance to break even if it doesn't go the way that you want.
Exactly. And I mean, in the Ivanov and Latifi fights, Derek Lewis showed that he can go all 3 rounds and keep a high pace up in those 3 rounds, because both of those were decisions, 3-round decisions. And he showed that he didn't get tired in 3-round decisions. So, if it does get into the later rounds, Derek Lewis has shown that he has the stamina to continue throwing big shots. And I believe it was either the Ivanov or the Latifi, one of the fights late in the fight, he was just teeing off on one of those giant Russian heads.
It was Olenek.
No. I mean, in the Latifi or the Ivanov. Ivanov is
sorry. I don't know. I meant Ivanov.
He's like Bulgarian or something, Eastern European, the dude that got stabbed in the chest. And both of those guys are thick, shorter heavyweights. And late in the Ivanov fight, Lewis was just sitting there at the end of the 3rd round, just trying to get Ivanov out of there. And he's shown that he has enough pop and stamina to still be dangerous in the later rounds. So, don't be afraid of him gassing. He might gas a little bit, but because he's so powerful, one punch will knock you out. And he's shown that those punches don't seem to lose any pop late in rounds.
Correct. And apologies if I said, and I know I did say that Lewis knocked all those guys out. I didn't mean to say it that way. I just meant he ran through them like he got victories, and he does it his way. But those are 3-round fights, though. I think a 5-round fight's a very different story. We saw it in his last 5-round fight. He actually played Curtis Blades like a picture book. He read him to a T. He knew exactly what he was going to do. He knew it was a 5-round fight. Yeah, just fucking, yeah, absolutely. So we got through. I mean, we only got through about 7 fights, but I think those are the good fights to talk about. I love it. UFC 265 is going to be a fucking banger. I love that 4 out of the 7 fights that we talked about are pick'em fights, so anything could happen. I love where we're at on these. I think that my favorite bet. So let's just do a little bit of a recap on our cash drops and our flag plants and our dirty dogs of the week. I'm flag planting on Aldo, but my favorite bet actually is the Pig Parlay.
Aren't you flag planting on Chiesa?
Oh, wait.
Yeah, Chiesa.
Hold on. I'm trying to remember.
Flag plant.
Correct. Sorry. I said I was, I said, oh, my bad. My bad. I said that I was going to take Aldo with my heart. My bad. That was my personal play. My personal play was Aldo, and I like the over of that fight parlayed with the other
Casey
Kenny fight, excuse me. And correct. So my flag plant is on Chiesa to beat Luque, and I love the pig parlay of Aldo and Kenny, the overs of both. I think that my big dog play of the week is going to be Derek Lewis to win by KO or TKO at plus 450. And I also cash cropped the the cash crop's different. I talked about that on Bet the Farm podcast. If you want to listen to Bet the Farm podcast, go on iTunes, Bet the Farm podcast. Talked about my cash crops. We talked about golf picks. We talked about all of our favorite Olympics picks. NFL, we got Hall of Fame game. We got it all for you. Go check us out on iTunes at Bet the Farm podcast and on IG at Bet the Farm podcast.
Perfect. So I'll start from the bottom on my plays. We got a lean on Menafield first round KO plus 225. We also like Menafield by KO or TKO minus 115 to minus 135, depending on what book you're using. You're probably going to see that's probably going to move a little bit. So you'll probably see minus 135, or we also might like just the simple under 1.5 at minus 112 for that fight. Then we got to lean on Fiziev. Either take him by decision or take him by TKO, KO. Get some plus money on that bet because Fiziev's a big favorite. It's hard to bet him straight up. Then we're going to go into the Casey Kenny fight. No bet there. We got a barn burner. You like Casey Kenny. I like Song Yadong. Both bets are good. It's a pick 'em, so it's really just, do you like the bigger, more explosive striker in Song Yadong, or do you like the grinder in the better, more experienced fighter in Casey Kenny? That's up to your decision. Then we have a Chiesa play cash crop on my end, minus 110. I got 2 units on that, and then I got a half unit on Chiesa by sub, plus 400 as the BernDawg of the week. If we're betting the Aldo Munoz fight, I like Aldo. Hard to bet any other way there. And Aldo by decision. Yeah, the over parlayed. I'm tailing the piggy parlay. And then we have Lewis to win by knockout or KO at plus 450. I'm riding with that as well. I had just him straight up, but hey, let's take the KO, TKO and get the value because he's not going to win by decision.
Correct. I love it. MMA Barn Burner show. But before we let you go, we always like to give a quick preview of UFC 266 coming up, only a month away. What a card this is. We're looking at a main card of a bantamweight bout of Marlon Moraes, the number 7 ranked contender, versus the number 11th ranked contender, and Merab Dvalishvili. That is Aljamain Sterling's number 1 main. That's his training partner. So they love to train together. He's going to go against Marlon Moraes in a bantamweight fight. I'm surprised Moraes moved down to 7. I think that fight against Aldo really fucked him. Then we got a flyweight bout. Jessica Andrade, still ranked the number 1 ranked flyweight in the division against Cynthia Calvillo, number 5. I think you hate her. She's one of those boring fighters. I think we're going to probably love Andrade there. We got a heavyweight bout. I love this one. We got Curtis Blades, number 4 ranked heavyweight versus the number 6 ranked Jairzinho Rosenstrike. What a fight that should be. We got another stylistic mismatch in this one with a wrestler versus a striker. And then the return of Nick Diaz in a welterweight bout versus Robbie Lawler.
And we're not even into the championship fights, Big.
Oh,
we got Valentina Bullet Shevchenko against
you're taking words out of my mouth.
The Billboard face herself, Lauren Murphy. We got
a little bit lucky because this fight was rescheduled, so we were going to have a co-main 2 championship fights with Valentina Shevchenko in a flyweight title bout versus Lauren Murphy, and another rescheduled fight, the featherweight title bout, Alexander Volkanovski in a featherweight bout versus the number 2 ranked contender in the division, Brian Ortega. This is an interesting one. I love it. Everything you see on social media is because these two guys in the Ultimate Fighter were captains against each other, so they were good friends at the time, but now we're starting to see some bad blood.
Yeah, and I got to say, if you have not seen Volkanovski's cooking videos
So good, man.
on his Instagram, please go watch them. He's known as an excellent cook. He shows it off in a hilarious fashion. He is so freaking funny on Instagram. Go check him out. That's just a little bit of gold. But yeah, we got the coaches of the Tough main event coming up here, and I cannot wait for this fight. I really cannot. I mean, Ortega, we haven't seen Ortega in a while. I think his last fight was against Korean Zombie, and Volkanovski's last fight was a rematch against Max. So it's going to be a fun one. I mean, this fight card is loaded, dude. It is really absolutely loaded. And fun fact, I saw Marlon Moraes in a sauna at LA Fitness in Boca. And he walked in, and I go, man, that guy really looks familiar. And I looked down and I saw his trademark Brazilian fighting trunks, the all yellow with the little Brazilian on the left. And I go, that's fucking Marlon Moraes. He was also in a weight cutting jacket, just absolutely hating his life. So I said, what's up? I didn't fanboy him too much. I can tell he did not want to be talked to. He was hating his life, cutting weight, but
was he cool about it?
He was cool about it. I literally said, you know, what's up, Marlon? You know, gave him a pound. Didn't I? It was hard.
You're the man. I'm out of here. Go fuck
he was hating it. He was hating it. He looked at me like, please don't say anything to all these people in the sauna. So, all righty, we're out, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, another episode of the Barn Burner MMA show posted on Thursday night. UFC 265. Can't wait.
Peace out.